Welcome along to another episode of Trip Notes, a New Zealand Herald travel podcast. It's brought to you by House of Travel, Better Together. And our special guest for this episode, a radio star, a social media phenomenon, a TV star now too. Can you believe it? But before we introduce our special guest, let's welcome New Zealand Herald Travel Deputy Editor, Stephanie Holmes.
Hi,
How's it going?
Tim. I'm good, thank you. Just left everyone hanging there as to the name of our special guest.
Yes, well, why don't you do the honours?
Yeah, well, we're very happy to have you here, Bree Tomasel from Celebrity Treasure Island and from ZM's afternoon show.
Yes, that's correct. Thanks, guys, for having me. It's really great to be here.
Yeah. Well, and it's an action-packed episode because we're going to be talking about your TV show. The Travel Bugs section will be about dealing with rainy holidays. We know there was a little bit of rain.
I had my fair share, guys.
Yeah.
Had my fair share.
You handled it really well. You got that amazing jacket. So
My hair didn't handle it well. The hair took most of the brunt of that, I think. But, we got through it.
Excellent. And the destination, the week, a place that we've all been and that you've been several times. We're not going to reveal what it is now. Stephanie knows I like to do the little tease. So how's this for a fun fact? One of the highest densities of spa complexes anywhere in the world.
Dreamy.
More than 1,200 spa complexes. I've
been to all of them,
Have
actually.
you?
That's
I've been to
1,200.
every single one.
I've been to two, so I've got a bit of catching up to
I'm going
do.
to catch you out a little bit.
Yeah, well, one spa complex for every, 4.81 square kilometres. So that's an exciting fun fact.
Wow.
Over 5 million international visitors every single year. But
Okay.
we'll do that later on.
Another cliffhanger.
Yeah,
It's like Celeb Treasure
I don't even
Island.
know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I'm obsessed with Celeb Treasure Island at the moment. I can't wait to find out who wins. But how are
I'm
you?
not telling you guys.
No,
That's
I
not why you
know.
got me here on the podcast.
Well, it kind of was. But
I'll tell you guys and then we'll bleep it out. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay,
All right.
good.
And it is right.
Yeah. What was the filming experience like for you?
Well, it was my first TV gig ever.
Which you would never tell. You're such a pro.
I was absolutely packing it the whole time, to be honest. But I was really excited to see, because obviously I've done radio for 8 or 9 years now, and I absolutely adore radio. It's my baby. But to do TV was really exciting for me and get me outside my comfort zone. I didn't realise how much bloody work goes into TV.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stop, start, and I mean, there's so many factors that go into filming a television show like this. Obviously, the weather being a massive one. And we were on such a tight schedule to film this show. There was a lot of episodes to get through, and we actually did not have one day off during
goodness.
filming.
For how many days?
We were there for just over 3 weeks. So it was hectic.
So you're not partying it up at the resort that's just around the corner?
Oh, no. Partying it up was getting room service to my room at 11 p.m. That was partying for me. But
Wait, you mean you weren't sleeping on a camp bed in the jungle?
yeah, I mean, yeah. No, we were definitely we weren't. We were lucky enough to be at a hotel. That was beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the celebrities definitely. Everyone always asks this. They were like, were they actually sleeping in the jungle, like with all that? I'm like, yes, they 100% were. Have you seen Sam Wallace's forehead? It's full of mozzie bites.
I know, that would just kill me. Mosquitoes just love me. Like, I'm a built-in insect repellent for everybody else because they come straight to me.
And that was really hard for filming because I got bitten on the face.
Oh,
I was
no.
bitten on my hands. They were just like next level mosquitoes there. It was
Yeah.
crazy.
So how far away were you staying from where it was filmed?
We were staying, it was about 15 minutes. We were really lucky because I actually spoke to Matt Chisholm, my co-host, who has filmed a couple of seasons of Survivor, New Zealand Survivor. And he said, I mean, the last one they filmed was in Thailand, and he reckons they had to get on a boat and then they had to drive, and then it was an hour down this like cliffy road. And I was like, this is crazy. And that was all during, before they started filming. So we were really lucky. It was actually on a organic ginger plantation in Fiji. And it was beautiful. Like, it was just picturesque. I've never seen, I'm from Australia and our beaches are beautiful, but there's nothing like a super tropical beach like they have in Fiji.
Had you been to Fiji before the show?
I've been to the airport,
Okay.
but never to Fiji. So I was just super excited to even just get to see.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't get to see that much because we were so busy, but the parts we did see were amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you could handle it as one of the team members? Like if you were having to be sleeping in the jungle and doing all the challenges?
Steph, I'd love to give it a go.
You would?
I'm a country girl. My dad is an apple farmer. I lived on an apple orchard until I was 16, so I'm a rough and tumble country girl, and I am competitive. They would need to look out if I was on that show.
I was upset. My wife was like, "Oh, you'd be useless on the show." I was like, "What?" I thought
I could make a fire.
I thought it'd be kind of handy, but the snoring. If you're a snorer, does it mean that all your teammates hate you and then they want you off the island in a hurry?
Because they're pretty close together, aren't they?
They're quite close together, and maybe that's why the boys got put on one side of the camp and the girls got put on the other side. I don't know, but I'll call him out here. Gary Freeman, what a snorer.
Really?
Oh, the girls were so over it by then. They're like, shut up, Gary.
And what about when people left? Did they have to go back to New Zealand? Because I hoped that once you're done on Celebrity Treasure Island, you at least get a holiday in Fiji.
Some people, I know for a fact there was a few people who stayed for a little bit, but most people were flying home the next day economy.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess you've all got such busy schedules. It's not like, you're just having a holiday and you can chill out.
Well, most people had to go back to work, but I know, and this is like definitely behind the scenes, keep it between us and the podcast, some people actually didn't even contact anyone when they got eliminated because they wanted a few extra days off.
Well, also you don't want the cat out of the bag that you
exactly.
Going home early. So.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Which that's so hard to do these days with reality shows as well, that obviously aren't straight to air. And I think that's why it was such a quick turnaround with this show, because there's obviously so many people that could let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
And so they're like, just get it onto the TV so that,
Because New Zealand's so small as well, right?
Exactly
so you're bound
right.
to see one of these people walking around Auckland. So
exactly. So they were worried about that, which is why, it's got to TV so quickly, I think.
Imagine keeping that secret that you're the winner. I mean, like coming home and then not telling everyone that you're the winner.
You have to tell someone, wouldn't you?
Yeah, everyone tells one person.
Yeah.
But then what if that person...
They tell one person and then that's how it gets out.
Who surprised you the most out of the contestants?
It was interesting. There was a lot of people, I think, that hit their peak at different times. Eric Murray, he is just... he's an absolute force to be reckoned with in terms of the physical challenges. He's just a natural born athlete. And you
so
have
competitive.
to be if you're winning Olympic Games and you're going to, however many Olympics. But he was just, so naturally athletic. And just, I thought I was competitive. Oh my God, get out of that man's way because he will step over whoever to win. It's just crazy. And other people, Gary Freeman, I'm a massive rugby league fan because I'm from Queensland. And my dad actually, because he was like, who's on the show? And he's like, oh, The Wiz. I loved The Wiz back in the 80s and, when he obviously played for the Kiwis and stuff. So, and he's what, in his 50s? He's still got it.
Yeah.
He's still athletic.
He always had the socks down. That's what he was known for when he played.
Was it?
He was the rebel who refused to pull his socks up when he played. So you always see him on the field because the socks were right down.
Wow.
There you go. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
There's so many strong females on the show, and I think that really comes out probably later in the series more so. And they're a force to be reckoned with. So many, though.
Yeah.
There's so many strong females who are really just ready to get in there and give it a go.
Yeah.
I heard some interesting stories from Shane Cameron off mic, because they're always mic'd.
Yeah.
So they're mic'd from 6:30 in the morning till I think about 9 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow.
And there's always people in the bushes who, you call them story producers, listening to them. Yeah. And they're like, oh, you wouldn't believe what Shane Cameron said about Mike Tyson. And stuff like that. He's got some stories, that guy, for sure. Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff happening on the island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just going back to you growing up in Queensland, tell us a bit about that. Obviously, Queensland's such a popular holiday destination for Kiwis, but what's it like when you grow up there?
It was weird. I never realised that my childhood wasn't the norm when I was growing up, but I had the best childhood. We were outside all the time. We would holiday on the Sunshine Coast. Mm-hmm. That was all Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast, which is now booming. That place is so popular these days. But the Sunshine Coast was our main holiday spot. And I just love that place so much. It's got just something about it that a lot of places don't have, like Noosa and Hastings Street. And my parents own a batch at a little place called Markula, which is near Mooloolaba. There's so many interesting names. And it's just one of the most beautiful places in the world, and it just feels like home to me.
How far from the Orchard was the Sunshine Coast?
That was quite far. It was about 4.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yes, whereas the Gold Coast was about 2.5.
Okay.
So, but I don't know why we chose to holiday on the Sunshine Coast. Probably because it was so beautiful. Yeah. So it wasn't too far, but yeah, we used to get there quite a lot when we were kids and loved it.
Yeah. And then when you moved to New Zealand, what were your thoughts about New Zealand? How have you found living here?
Well, I moved here at the start of last year, and we had a really good winter last year, or what I've heard. And by good, I mean it wasn't
not
freezing.
Horrendous.
Yeah, not horrendous. I find Auckland quite... Stanthorpe, where I grew up, is actually the coldest place in Queensland.
Okay.
We get like -5s and -6s, which people are like, in Queensland? I'm like, yeah, it's crazy because we're so high above sea level.
Right.
So when I got here, I was like, oh, it's not that cold. And I still don't I find Auckland quite nice. Yeah. But
Just a bit raining. I'm sorry about the rain.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about the last month, some generic weather chat, which I love. They said that apparently it nearly rained every day in August.
Yeah.
Nearly every day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't rain all day. So
I know.
mean,
Just almost.
Yeah.
But we're through it. We're through it.
Yes.
So we're
Well,
in
let's
spring
on the
now.
back end of it. Yeah.
Have you travelled around New Zealand much?
I've actually been so lucky. I've got to do quite a lot of travel around New Zealand already. And my family, it was about probably 3 or 4 years ago, I said to my mum, I was like, I really want to go to Queenstown. That's somewhere that's on my bucket list to do. And we actually did a family trip to Queenstown all together, about 4 years ago. And then we loved it so much we did it again the next year. So I'd been to Queenstown quite a few times. I've been to Invercargill, I've been to Hokitika, I've been to Greymouth, Christchurch, Tauranga, the Naki, Wellington, going to the Coromandel this weekend.
Right.
I love seeing this country. It is so beautiful and so differently beautiful to Australia, and that's what I love about it.
That's cool that you went with your mum. Like your mum's such a character.
Oh God!
I was listening to you not long ago, and you. Maybe you've done it many times. I've only heard it once, but you ring your mum and you tell her that a friend of yours has won the lottery.
My childhood friend who still lives where she lives in the small town. I'm like, Mum, you wouldn't believe it. Katie Dray just won the 40 mil. And my mum loses it. And she's like, no way. And she's so happy for her. And I'm like, nah, just joking.
But then the time I heard was that it was like the follow-up. He's like, no, this time she's really won. She's like, no.
Shut up, Brianna. I'm not falling for it again. Nah, she's amazing to travel with, and she loves travel so much. And she just... Because she's lived in Stanthorpe her whole life, which is 10,000 people, small place. Anytime she's outside of Stanthorpe, she's like, this is the best thing ever. And she just loves it. So she's a really fun person to travel with. Yeah.
That's cool.
And you travelled to the Philippines by yourself recently.
I did.
A few months ago.
Yes, about 4 months ago now, 4 or 5 months ago. Oh, my God. That was terrifying.
That was the first time you travelled by yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
So never travel. I'd always wanted to do it. And you know when you're here, and I'm sure you guys have friends and you guys might have done it before, and all the more power to you. You know when you hear someone and they're like, I'm going on a 12-month trip by myself just with this backpack. And I'm like, that's amazing. I could never do that. And it's just terrifying to me because being in a different country is quite overwhelming sometimes, especially in a country where you don't speak the same language as the locals. But I thought, you know what? I'm at the age, I'm going to do it. Only for 10 days, but I still did it. I still did it by myself. Yeah.
Wow. And did you enjoy it?
I did.
Being by yourself?
I did. When I first got there, I hated it. And I was like, this is so scary and I don't really know what to do. And then I finally built up the courage where I just went out and met people. And I mean, there's quite a lot of people who are traveling by themselves. Yeah. And it's really cool to connect with people in that setting, like where you normally wouldn't, meet people like that. And there was one experience that happened, which was probably one of the most amazing travel experiences I've ever had. Because I had a friend, her name's Dania, and she'd actually just been, I went to El Nido, which is quite a small, it's probably the most undeveloped place I'd ever been traveling to, which I didn't know that until I got there. And she'd just been there 2 weeks prior. And she said to me, she's like, you need to do this thing. There's this mountain where you need to meet one of the local guys, one of the local young guys. And what they do is they pick you up at 4 a.m. and they drive you to this place. And then you walk through this village and you climb this mountain at 4 a.m. And I was like, that sounds terrifying. And she was with two big burly friends of hers, two big men. And I was like, I'm by myself. She's like, no, I'll give you the number of the guy we used.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she gave me the number of this local guy, and I got this like terrible local SIM card just so I could call this guy. And I called him. He could barely speak English. And he goes, yep, be ready at 4:30 and I'll pick you up. Anyway, so I got on a scooter at my hotel at 4:30 in the morning, and I was like, this is crazy. I don't know why I'm doing this. And I met this guy on the main road, and he had in the Philippines, it's really common. They have a motorbike, and then they attach like a dodgy sidecar to the motorbike.
Yeah.
And everyone drives those around. And that's what they call a taxi. Anyway, he had one of those. He's like, hop in. So I hopped in, and we drove down into this like super secluded part, and I was like, I'm going to die here. This is where I'm going to die. Like, it was pitch black. I was with this random guy. Anyway, he has this tiny little torch, and we start walking through all this like little villages where there's chickens and there's people who are like up in the morning making rice and like whatever else. And I was like, sorry. Like, we're walking through. It's so dark. And he turns on this torch, and we start walking up these wood stairs that have holes in them, and like they're so dangerous. And we start this climb, and no joke, if it wasn't pitch black, I don't think I would have done it. It was a climb that here in New Zealand, they would never do it. You would just never do it. It was literally like sharp rocks where I should have had a harness on. Like, if you look down, if you fall, you're dead. Yeah. Like, it was just out of control. And because it was dark, I think I was like, just keep climbing. Just don't look down.
And you didn't know how far you had to go, so it was fine.
Exactly right. 2.5 hours later,
goodness.
a 2.5 hour climb, and he goes, we're finally at the top, and the sun was just rising over the bay at El Nido, and it was just one of the most picturesque, amazing feelings, like just feeling like I'll never get to do something like that again. And it was incredible. Didn't get hurt until on the way down, where I slipped and scraped my leg really badly. But it was worth it. It was so worth it. It was incredible.
Yeah. How about anywhere else in the world that you've travelled, other than New Zealand, Australia, and Philippines, Fiji?
Fiji, one of my, I think, and I really want to go back to this place, and it was one of my favourite destinations I've been to, was Vietnam. Absolutely adored that country.
I haven't been there yet. I need to get there.
Oh, it is so good. And the thing I loved about it, because I've been to Thailand as well, which I loved, and it was great. Vietnam is like the less touristy version of Thailand. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like hasn't been touched as much in that sense.
Whereabouts did you go?
I went to Ho Chi Minh, Hanoi, and Hoi An.
Did you get the clothes made in Hoi An?
Yes. And have you been there?
Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's amazing. And there's such amazing tailors, and everyone knows if you've been to Vietnam, that's the place to get the clothes made. It's incredible. Yeah. Ha Long Bay, amazing. And I wish I want to go back and do stuff which isn't probably so much on the tourist map. Because I think it would be a really cool place to explore, and so cheap. Yeah. The food is so cheap. And Vietnamese food is my favourite food, so that's probably why I liked it so much.
Also, the greatest water park in the world is...
Tim loves the water park.
It's in Nha Trang. I was there like 10 years ago. We'd had this amazing trip doing a lot of serious stuff, you know, and then we had one free day, and I'd heard about this brand new water park.
That's what we're doing.
And you had to catch the gondola from Nha Trang to an island, and it was like the equivalent of about $15 to enter. And there was no one there, and it was probably the greatest day of my life.
Amazing.
Apart from when you got married and your baby was born.
No. I was going to say, that doesn't sound like what Wet and Wild is like on the Gold Coast. It sounds very different.
It was sensational. Now, we've sort of covered off the travel bugs part, you know, when it rains on your holiday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've had some shockers.
Well, I had a rainy time in Fiji on holiday once, and it was... I don't know.
What did you do?
Well, that's the thing, because we were in a resort, and it was me and a friend, but we were in a resort that was full of couples and families. And
no!
Just me and my friend just sat there going, "Okay, what do we do now?" Read a lot of books, got a lot of sleep, so it wasn't all bad, but yeah.
Booze.
There may have been a cocktail or two.
Say, that's where I'd be hitting the bar. That's where I'd be going. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then I think when I went to Boston and Chicago, I was doing a trip from Boston to Chicago, spent a few days in each, and it was early November, so it's going to be cold anyway, but there was like an early unseasonal snow storm.
Oh, really?
And so by the time we got to Chicago, it was like -3, but because it's got that massive lake and so the wind chill, it was like -11. I've never been so cold in all my life. But I just kind of layered up and got on with it. Like we did a walking tour and a bike tour.
Wait, you did a walking and a bike tour in
-11,
that weather?
yeah.
Good for you.
There was a point when I was riding my bike where I didn't know if I had hands anymore. Like I literally couldn't feel my hands anymore. But I think you have to not let the weather ruin your trip, which is hard if you've kind of been saving up your money and you've only got a bit of holiday.
Yeah.
And then
I think one of the problems that a lot of people fall into is that you see the cheap flights to the tropics, and then you don't realize that so often the cheap flights are because it's the monsoon season.
Yes.
And then you wonder why it rains on your holiday. But you would have spent some time on the Whitsundays, I assume?
Yes, I love the Whitsundays. I mean, if you have not been to Whitehaven Beach.
I have.
Oh, did you
Stunning.
love it?
Yeah,
That's
so beautiful.
incredible, that place.
Yeah.
I was there when they were having their record-breaking rain, and there was 16 days of rain, of torrential rain, 11 days where it literally did not stop.
Oh.
And everyone went crazy, and it was a Club Med that was leaking, and so which is now closed. And but there was a stalactites on the balcony of some of the rooms because there was just so much consistent rain. But you just go crazy, and then when the rain clears, it's fine. But a lot of those places, unfortunately, they just suffered at the hands of too many cyclones.
Yeah.
Cards.
Cards.
Take a pack of cards.
And with Treasure Island, it kind of just added to the drama and the intensity of the challenges. When they were doing the one where they had to swim out and it was raining, it was all very dramatic.
God, if it wasn't torrential rain, it was extreme humidity and heat. So I didn't know which I'd rather. I was like, I don't know which one to pick here. But there was an episode that's already gone to air where it was probably the worst day that we had with rain. And I remember I had like a little scarf around my neck and I had a full rain jacket on, and I was just wet from my rain jacket through to my shirt, just everything. And I've like taken my rain jacket off and my red scarf had just ran through my white shirt. And I was like, oh, television, they said. It'd be glamorous, they said. But it was fine.
Yeah. In some resorts, it's always about the bar games too. As soon as it rains, then there's the bar games. But there's only so long you can put up with.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Days of bar games. Let's do our destination of the week.
Okay.
So 5 million international tourists a year and steadily rising. And as I mentioned, the spa complexes, more than 1,200 in Bali.
Yeah, beautiful
I love
Bali.
it.
What did you think, Steph?
Well, I have to confess, I went there last year, and before I went, I wasn't sure whether I was going to like it because
That's good to be like that when you're going to a travel destination,
and
isn't
no
it?
offence, I just heard that there was a lot of Australians
That's true.
there, and maybe not the best kind of Australians there. But when I got there, I was so pleasantly surprised.
It's all bogan, Steph. You can say it.
I know. Yeah, but it was just so beautiful, and there's like obviously different areas you can go to. There are areas that are quite touristy and quite overrun these days, but
Yes.
there are other places that you can go to and get away from it all. And
Did you get your bintang singlet?
I did not get a bintang singlet.
What
no,
are you doing there?
I know.
You didn't really go.
But I went to a surf and yoga retreat, which was amazing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing. They're super popular in Bali at the moment, aren't they? What do you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
And they gave us a daily spa treatment, which was nice. The hardest bit of that holiday was deciding which spa treatment you wanted.
Sounds horrific.
I know. It was stressful, yeah.
And you said you've been, how many times?
I've been twice. Yeah.
Okay.
So look, you're interviewing us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're such a
I
professional.
love hearing about other people's experiences. This is what it's about.
Yeah, well let's get some of yours. So what do you love about Bali? Are there, like, if someone's listening to this podcast going, I've never been and I just want to know what's awesome and maybe a recommendation, is there anything that springs to mind about what you love about it?
I think in the last couple of years, the thing that, because I went to Bali years and years ago, and obviously, Aussies love to go to Bali.
And it's so cheap and easy from Australia.
Which is awesome. And I think Kiwis are just starting, and we talked about this before off the podcast, Kiwis are just starting to kind of get that Bali bug.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that.
No bugs.
No bugs. All bellies.
Not that kind of bug,
yeah. Not that kind of bug, but they're just starting to be like, Bali is a possible destination for us. Like it's so cheap. The thing in the last couple of years, I think, is the food for me.
Yeah.
There's so many amazing businesses and places that are popping up in Bali, and I mean, yes, they're mainly owned by Australians, but it's incredible food. And I think when I first went to Bali, it didn't have that appeal, which I love food. I'm a massive foodie.
Me too.
And I think there's so many different things you can get in Bali now.
It's really great for vegans and vegetarians as well. There's so many options. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think the yoga and all that kind of those retreats do so well, is because there's so many options for people like that. But I love going to all the different places, especially in like Seminack's probably my favourite. There's a lot of places around there which I really love, but like my favourite place in Bali, which is a bit off. It's starting to get more popular now, but Canggu, I love that place just because it's a little bit more, I think, not as touristy as.
So what's it like? Why should someone go there, do you think?
I think because you get probably a sense of more the real Bali, and if you really just want to like kind of live the Bali vibe, that's where you're probably going to get the real kind of experience, because Seminack's just all bloody Australians, like, you know what I mean? Whereas like there's a lot more locals, and it's a little bit not as fast paced, which I really love, and you can kind of slow down and just kind of really take it in. And I mean, a lot of people are going to Ubud. I mean, everyone says it differently. I went there. I've been there a few times.
I loved it there,
and it's really cool too.
All the rice paddies and just riding the bike around there. And,
we met a guy. What was his name? I think he called himself. His Balinese name was something, but I think his like English name, he called himself Frank. And we met this guy, and we were actually trying, it was me and a friend, and we were off the beaten track, and we were trying to find this walk that you can do. And this guy came over to us. He's like, I want to show you Bali. Like, let me show you. Tomorrow, you pay me this money and I'll take you to all the best places. And he was so passionate, and he was so lovely. And we were like, all right, should we trust this guy? And we ended up being like, okay, fine, we'll trust this guy. And it ended up being one of the best days we had in Bali. And he took us to the rice fields, and he took us to, what's the coffee called? Where?
Oh, yes.
Have you guys been there?
The civet coffee, and it comes out the anus of the...
the animal. What is it?
The cat-like creature.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds gross, but...
Yeah.
I mean,
did you try the
gross.
coffee?
Yeah. And it was disgusting. No, I mean, it tasted like coffee. Like, it didn't really taste like anything else. But then we tried all these other different things, and it was just a cool experience. Yeah.
I found the Balinese people were just so welcoming and hospitable, and
they're
just
beautiful
so friendly.
people.
Yeah, just really great place to get talking to locals. And
did either of you get to go to the beach clubs?
I went to one,
Potato Head and
Fins.
I didn't go there. I went to Como, which is a hotel in Canggu, and they've got a beach club there.
Was it good?
Yeah,
I've
beautiful.
heard of that place. Yeah, apparently that's awesome.
It's a really lovely luxury hotel as well.
Yeah, I have heard. Apparently that place is amazing. And you guys, obviously, you would have went to Mexicola and all those places.
I didn't, no, because I was there doing the yoga surf thing.
Of course,
so I didn't do much cocktail drinking or bintang drinking.
You need to go back and do that version of Bali.
Because what's your feeling? Because in Bali, I've done it where you've got the lovely private villa, where you've got your own pool behind a high fence.
Which is a really affordable option.
Super affordable.
And like, it's amazing, and you walk in, you're like, oh, this is so cool, and then you realise that there's no one there.
There's no vibe.
And that's obviously what some people want.
Yep.
But then after a little while, I was like, oh, I kind of like some people. Like, people watching is fun.
Yes.
You know, so you can have that private villa, or you have the big pool with everyone there, and I think I actually kind of like the big pool.
I think I do too, unless you've got a big group of people.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got 8 or 9, 10 people, and then you hire a big place out, that is the way to go in Bali.
Yeah. And you can do a bit of both. You can have a few days in a hotel, a few days in a villa.
Yeah, true. You
mix
can
it
do
up.
whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So where's next for you, do you think?
Oh, God. I've actually got a really short amount of time off coming up in the next 3-4 weeks, and I'd really like to go to Samoa.
Oh, amazing.
I've heard it's like, kind of...
You're not sick of tropical islands? You want to go?
I would be, Steph, but no, I want to go back and actually have a holiday where I get to see some of the places. Or Sri Lanka. I really want to go.
Oh, Sri Lanka's amazing.
Both been. Is it definitely worth it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
the food there, if you like the food in Bali, my goodness.
Have you guys seen that? Was it Sri Lanka that's been in the news recently where Instagrammers and influencers have been in trouble because they've been taking those photos on the train? The iconic train in Sri Lanka?
The dangerous, where you hang out the window.
There's an amazing train journey there.
Yeah.
And it goes around this beautiful arched bridge. But a lot of people lean out of the train and take photos.
And they take photos, and there was a photo that went viral a little while ago of a boyfriend and girlfriend, and she's leaning out the back of the train, and he's kind of holding her, and they're kissing, and they copped heaps of flack for it because they were like, "That's so dangerous."
Yeah.
They could have died. But I mean, Sri Lanka's amazing. That small island. I mean, relatively small.
Yeah.
And you can be on safari in like a jungle and seeing leopards.
See, that's
and
for
elephants.
me. Want to go? You've sold me already.
and then you've got the beaches, and then lovely people, and like I love India. India is such an adventure, but Sri Lanka genuinely is like an easier, less frantic.
Maybe a good lead into India.
And I
if
think
you want to
that's
do
like
that
going
first.
back to Bali. I think that's a good thing about Bali. So if you haven't travelled in Southeast Asia, I feel like Bali is a good starter for that because there is such a expat community of Australians
level.
and Kiwis. So it's different, but it's familiar. So I think that's a good place
so true.
to
I
start,
agree.
and then you can kind of venture further.
We're out of time.
No.
Is that it?
We could just keep talking and talking.
I thought we only just got started.
Well, now we can turn the mics off and Bree can tell us who wins.
Okay, cool. We'll do that now.
But thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you. It's been such a treat to talk to you.
Oh, anytime I can talk about travel, I'll be there for sure. I love it. Thanks for
Thank
having me,
you.
guys.
And the weather will get better.
Yeah.
I always feel bad when Australians are in New Zealand and it's raining. So
I'll
will
come
get
see
better.
you if it doesn't. I'm going to hold you accountable.
If you want to see video from our podcast and you want to catch up on any of the earlier episodes, because this is episode number 9, and if you've missed any of those, then go to nzherald.co.nz/trip notes. You can check out Facebook and Instagram as well. Just look for @NZH Travel. And if you've been inspired by our destination of the week, you want to find out more about creating your own Bali experience, you can talk to the team at your local House of Travel store. From villa stays to luxury resorts, everything in between. They've got insider tips and recommendations. They'll make your Bali escape better together. Thank you for listening to Trip Notes.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Bree.